Hi, this is Nalin. It's a quick tutorial using UFrame1.6 to show how prefabs can be instantiated with and without using a pooling solution. In this case, I'm using PoolBoss. At the moment, I've highlighted it as not used, so it doesn't actually get used. But if I hit play, see what happens. Okay, so let's click on the game view, and if I click on Add Cube, these cubes are being created by the UFrame system, so it's resolving the cube name and then just instantiating them within this game object, which is acting as a container, the cubes one. So click on it like that. Okay, you can see, and once they're instantiated, it removes it after a set period of time, so it uses a timer there. If I stop that and show you the cube object, that's got a cube view attached to it, and properties. It doesn't initialize a view model because that's something that I want to do in my own code when I instantiate it at runtime. Otherwise, it's more or less standard. Now let's look at it by using a pooling solution. So here, using PoolBoss, 10 of those are instantiated at runtime. Okay, so let's click on Game View. Right, and if I click on Add Cube, you can see those being taken out from the pooling solution over here on the left, and it just helps to optimize your game at runtime if you can use a pooling solution like that. So it's quite a good exercise to try and find out how to do this. Okay, so how do I go about doing that? Let's first of all check the UFrame system. So this is built on top of one of the tutorial projects. So in my system A, I have a game. It's got a collection of cubes there. That cubes is bound to that cubes game object. Doesn't use view first, so that has to be dragged into there. Mind you, the bindings, this section over here, only shows if you click on game view and add this particular binding. So you have to click on that arrow and make sure that you get cubes view collection changed, otherwise it doesn't show up. Okay, the game element has also got some commands to add a cube and remove a cube as well. Okay, and those trickle down to the game view to actually create the cube at runtime, which I'll go into in a second. The cube itself has got a delete command, and that's wired into as well, and it's got a couple of properties. It's got a state there which shows whether it's flying or whether it's grounded. I use that really just to check that I was able to initialize the view model the way I wanted to, and so after the cube's been created I can set a color or a state to it. The ground element here, I've done that to check out the bindings for the collisions, so that when it hits something and when it hits the ground it actually shows. So if I go back, click on play, okay, console, okay, not sure what that error is, but let's ignore that for a second. Okay, it shows that the ground has been collided with. Okay, so where to start? Let's go with the game view. So, or game controller. Okay, it's quite interesting because let's ignore this line here, log command. So we've got several things. Right, the commands to add a cube and a command to remove a cube down here. Command to add a cube, this one basically creates a view model, shows what the identifier is because I had to check that when I was debugging it, and then it calls the cubes collection to add the cube view model, and then it calls base class. The remove cube isn't really necessary. What it does is it checks that the count is 0 and then just removes one of them at random. It's not actually used in the demo that I showed, but it just shows a different way of removing those cubes. I have a couple of interesting things here. When a cube gets added, what happens is during the initialization of this, I've set up, and I think one of the other guys helped me with this on the Slack community. It's basically when the collection has been changed, okay, it subscribes to the cube that's been added to the cube added model, added method, okay, and what that does is it subscribes to the cube delete command. So we go to okay, not that one there. Okay, cube delete. So cube has got its own delete command there, and that calls the base delete. You don't necessarily need this, but it's useful because it means that the cube can go and delete itself. So that really does help. So make sure that we code wires together properly. So that's the game controller. You need to see how the prefabs are instantiated. Okay, so I originally had used the pooling solution and defined it as macros, but I tried to change that so that on initialization, so it's basically done a runtime. So I've got a variable here. It looks for pool boss and then sets up a variable that says is it using it or not. Once it's done that, so when a cube is added in the game controller here, okay, it then trickles down to cube's create view. As again, it's automatically provided by UFrame when you've got items that are in a collection. I wanted to be able to set the position of it. Okay, so there's two cases here. The first case is basically if it's using the pooling solution, it uses this line here, spawning pool, using the position and rotation I set up. Now, I think this is a part where I had to set up the actual view model. This is a part that was really tricky or caused me to sort of fall over. So what you have to do then is get the view element of that by because it's already got one added, okay, and then for that view, for its view model object, is assign it to the view model that's coming in over here. It's coming in over there, okay, from the game controller. So and it's been created here, there, okay. If you don't do that, then no, it won't work properly, okay. And the reason it's important for the pooling solution is because if you don't need a pooling solution, all you need to do is call instantiate view, okay. And what that does is that will look for that particular item. So in this case, it's an item named cube in the resources folder, which I'll go back to here. So in the resources folder, that's where it lives. UFrame will automatically resolve that to that particular item, and then just spawn clones of that. And that's really the core of it. So that's creation dealt with. With cubes added, doesn't really do anything here, but cubes removed, so once it gets removed, you need to handle the deleting. And again, two cases: if it's using the pooling solution, you can despawn it there. Otherwise, you just destroy it as per normal with Unity. I think that more or less covers it. Okay, right. Oh, okay. Just thought I'd explain briefly about the collisions. So working on sort of doing different collisions, but basically you can use the UFrame bindings to detect collisions, in this case with the ground view or the plane at the bottom, and as soon as it collides, then it comes up with with this here, comes up with a debug message. Apparently those ones or these bindings are going to be obsolete soon, so the advice is to use UniRx triggers, and I didn't really see any examples of that, but again with a bit of help from Slack community I was able to figure that out, also from Micah. So it's this on collision enter as observable, which I think will give you additional constructs when you want to set up subscriptions to those particular collisions. So hopefully that code proves useful to somebody. In this particular case, what happens is when the cube gets to the bottom or its transfer, its position is less than 1, it changes the state from flying, so the cube's in the air, to being grounded, then sets up an observable timer for 2 seconds. That observable timer then calls execute delete. Execute delete actually relates to this delete command. So that is how you can execute the delete command, by prefixing it with a delete, and that's done on the view. So the view execute delete calls the controller, cube controller, which is over here. It calls this model, or through this method, and I think that's it. Okay, hopefully that is reasonably clear for people. Okay, it's Nal in here. Hopefully this helps somebody. Cheers.